Integration of Amibroker with Flattrade API. I am offering freelance AFL coding services at a very affordable price. I code AFL for charting, scanners, backtesting, API integration, algo trading, and conversion from TradingView Pine script. I also provide strategy development, backtesting, and optimization. My services also include support for Amibroker, data feed, VPS, API integration, AFL coding. If you need AFL coding services, please contact me on Telegram. Feel free to share this information with your friends and relatives. You can download my AFLs from my blog, where you'll also find useful information for trading. All updates and modifications to the AFLs will be posted on this blog. Join my Telegram channel to stay updated on my blog posts, YouTube content, and useful trading information. Updates and modifications to the AFL will also be shared in this channel. For more useful codes, please support me by making a donation or referring my freelance services. I created this video to provide a detailed explanation of the code, which is available free of charge. Please watch the video carefully. If you encounter any difficulties with installation, I offer installation support on a freelance basis. In this video, I will explain how to connect Amibroker to the Flattrade API. This process is similar to using a broker's Python SDK to connect to the broker from a Python terminal. To use this integration effectively, you should have a basic understanding of AFL coding and the broker's API. If the broker updates their API and the integration stops working, you will need to modify the AFL yourself. I will provide updates as soon as possible. If you are trading with a large fund or managing multiple accounts, it is advisable to use a third-party bridge. This AFL is designed to be simpler and easier to use compared to most other bridge sample AFLs. Be sure to test this AFL during aftermarket hours using bar replay or button trading before going live. Use this AFL at your own risk. Curl is a lightweight and fast utility for sending HTTP requests. Since 2018, Windows comes with curl pre-installed. For earlier versions of Windows, download curl from the official website and extract it. From the extracted files, open the bin folder and copy curl.exe and curlcabundle.crt into the Amibroker installation folder. For more details about curl, watch my previous video on my YouTube channel titled Amibroker Broker API Integration Free. You can check curl API commands from the command prompt as shown here. In addition to Amibroker snippets, I also provide curl snippets. When sending API requests, we will receive response data. To save this data, create a folder named Amibroker API on the C drive or any other drive of your choice. By default, all AFLs are configured to use the C drive with the folder name Amibroker API, but you can customize this as needed. Download the curl test AFL from my blog and open it in the AFL editor. It is configured with the default drive as C and the default folder as Amibroker API. Change these settings if necessary. Click the debug button. If you have not already created the Amibroker API folder, this action will create it on the C drive and download an example text file into this folder. If you see the example file in the Amibroker API folder, it confirms that curl is working on your PC. Please visit the API documentation link and read it carefully. To use the API, you need to generate an API key and a secret key. Go to the Flattrade website and navigate to the Wall section. Log in to Wall. After login, click Pi. Click Create New API Key. Enter a name and a short name for the app. Provide a redirect URL. You can use an HTTPS localhost or any dummy URL. Next, write a description for the app. Finally, click Create. Copy the API key and secret key, then save them securely, or paste them directly into the AFL. To view and copy the secret key, click the eye icon. Each day, obtain the request code by visiting the URL with your API key and logging in. The request code will then appear in the address bar. After obtaining the request code, we need to send the API key, request code, and signature. The signature is a SHA-256 encrypted hash of the concatenated string formed by your API key, request code, and API secret. Then we receive a token. We need to send this token for all subsequent API requests. This is the base URL. You need to append the endpoint URL for each specific request. This is the URL for placing an order. Below are the values you need to send. When using the API, it's important to be aware of the request limits, which dictate how many requests you can send within a given time period. Exceeding these limits will result in errors from the API. Note that the Flattrade documentation does not specify these limits. Download the AFL file from my blog and place it in the Amibroker custom folder. Open the AFL file in the AFL editor. You can set your credentials as default parameters within the AFL, ensuring you enclose details in double quotes and avoid extra spaces. For multi-account users, assign a unique number to each user using the username value. Create a separate copy of the AFL file for each user and apply all copies to your charts. For a single user, you can use the default setting. Flattrader token manual set parameter allows you to manually enter your token if there are changes in the log file or if you receive the token from another source. Leave this field empty. Change the default path for the drive and folder if necessary. After entering the default parameters, save the AFL file. With your credentials pre-filled as default parameters, you won't need to enter them each time. Double-click the Flattrade login AFL to add it to an empty sheet, or drag it onto your existing chart that doesn't have any bridge-related codes. This step needs to be done once per day, and it includes a request-timed refresh function, so you can apply it to background sheets like Sheet 2 or Sheet 3, etc. Check that all parameters are set correctly. We need to enter the request code in the white box and then click Login. First, it will delete any existing response files and remove static variables. It will then send a login request and receive a response in JSON format, similar to comma-separated values. This response will be saved as a text file in the Amibroker API folder. The login file will be read to set the access token in a static variable, and the API key will be set from the parameter. Consequently, you can obtain the API key and access token from any AFL by using the static variable. After setting the static variable, the AFL also sends a limits request and the response is saved in the Amibroker API folder. From this response, you can obtain the cash margin, realized P&L, and unrealized MTM. These values are not set as static variables. Limits are obtained manually only. If you need to calculate MTM-based exits, use these values for your calculations. For MTM related to square of positions, make sure to call this API within the rate limits. The Set Manual button is used to manually set the token from the parameter. After logging in, if you close Amibroker, the static variables will be removed, but you won't need to log in again. Use this button to manually set the token from the login file. This feature is also useful if the broker changes the login response format. You can obtain the token from the response file. In such cases, copy the token from the response file, paste it into the token manual set parameter, and then click Set Manual. If you receive the token from other applications, you can also copy the token from those apps, paste it into the token manual set parameter, and click Set Manual. The Reset button is used to remove static variables. The Delete Response button deletes the response files in the Amibroker API folder. Use this if needed. The Get Limits button sends a limits API request at any time after the initial automatic limits retrieval. If there is no login file, it will display Login Not Available. If there is no static variable, it will show Access Token Not Set. If there is no limit file, it will display Get Limits. If there is an error during login, it will display the error message from the response file. If the login is successful, the access token will be displayed on the first line, followed by the token set in the static variable on the second line, and the cash balance will be shown on the third line. In this URL, replace XXX with your API key. Save this URL to your bookmarks or speed dial for easy access. Each morning, visit the saved URL with your API key and log in using your credentials. After logging in, you will be redirected to the specified URL. The request token will be available in the address bar and is valid for only 2 minutes. The code is between the equal sign and the ampersand, and its length is 81 characters. If you leave out some characters or copy extra ones, an error message will pop up. Copy the code and paste it into the Amibroker Login AFL white box. After logging in as described earlier, the request token will appear in the redirect URL. Copy only the request code from this URL. Paste the token into the white box and click Login. Download the Flattrade Algo Order AFL from my blog. When applied to the chart, it functions as button trading and is coded for the cash segment, so please use it with equity symbols. To place an order, first log in, then click Buy or Short to initiate the order, and Sell or Cover to close the position. Check the broker terminal to verify that the order has been placed. The Reset button is used to remove static variables. After clicking Buy, a static variable is set for the open position. If you click Buy again, the order will not go through. In this case, you need to click Sell to close the position and resend the buy order. Alternatively, you can click the Reset button to clear the static variables and then send the buy order again. The Algo Order AFL includes a trace function to log order details. You can view the order details in the log window under the Trace tab. If you are using this feature for the first time, enable it by right-clicking on the Trace tab, selecting Trace Output, and ticking Internal. This will display the time the order was sent. The order book shows the time the order was placed. The difference between these two times represents the actual time taken to place the order. You can compare this with other bridges or platforms to evaluate their speed. For instance, order placement from Chennai took less than a second, while from AVPS in Canada, it took up to 2 seconds. For faster order placement, consider using a VPS located in Mumbai. An Amazon AWS VPS with 2 cores and 2 GB of RAM should be adequate for most needs. If you want to place orders using your own strategy AFL, replace this line with your strategy. After doing so, you can apply it to the chart or run it in the scanner. If you prefer to use this as a drag and drop, remove this line and save the file. To replace this line, ensure that your AFL includes functions for buy, sell, short, and cover. This AFL automatically calculates the quantity based on the position size and the day's opening price and is coded for the equity segment. Enable the Need Order Number option if you want to modify or cancel orders. When enabled, it will save an order response file in the Amibroker API folder, which includes the order number needed for modifications. You can customize the details of these messages as needed, including information such as entry price, stop loss, target, and other relevant details. This message string will be used for trace messages, pop-up notifications, and Telegram messages. If you need Telegram alerts, enable the code by removing the slashes and asterisks at the top and bottom. Then, enter your bot key and channel ID. Next, remove the double slashes within the order code. For more details on sending Telegram alerts, watch my first YouTube video titled Send Alerts from Amibroker to Telegram. Change the order details as needed, including limit orders, market orders, price, trigger price, etc. To enable pop-up notifications or Telegram alerts, remove the double slashes at the beginning of the relevant code lines. Download the Flattrade Entry Exit Orders AFL from my blog. This sample AFL places both entry and exit orders. It functions similarly to a cover order, but it places two separate orders simultaneously, a market order for entry and a stop-loss order for exit. Download the Flattrade Options AFL from my blog. This AFL is designed for buying options based on the underlying asset. It automatically checks the index, selects the ATM strike, and places an order for the number of strikes from the ATM specified in the parameters. Make sure to set the expiry date. For multiple accounts across different brokers, make a copy of the login AFL for each respective broker. Assign a serial number to each user account and enter this number in the username value. Apply each AFL individually and log in. In the order placing AFL, include all the user credentials required to place orders, along with their corresponding serial numbers. Then, in the order placement code, incorporate the logic to place orders for each user one by one. For managing multiple accounts, I recommend using third-party bridges. In the Flattrade Amibroker SDK AFL, I have included all the AFL codes and details. Additionally, I have provided curl commands for checking in the command prompt.